You do not make strategic investments in R&D, you cannot develop. There is no body of evidence that is as empirical as that. Currently, the developing world spends about 4 to 8% of their GDP on R&D. Nigeria spends, depending on the data that you're looking at, 0.1 to 0.400. So we haven't, as a country and as a people, done well in prioritizing R&D. And the current focus by the leadership to change that is a very big step in the right direction. So we now have zonal offices in Lagos, Anambra, Plateau State, and in Katsina, and we're looking to do the South-South and the South and the Northeast in the next few years. What it means is that the major part of our mandate, that means that we need to engage with practitioners of phytomedicines, train them, bring them into the net, help their products get regulated, and bring all that knowledge that's been handed down from generation to generation into a database that can now enable us improve our socio-economic indices in terms of job creation, capacity building, and revenue generation can now be achieved. We've trained thousands of traditional medicine practitioners, and we're looking to do a lot more in the next few years. One cannot talk about the activities of NIPRD without talking about the capacity in country that we have. NIPRD is the first institute of its kind in this part of the world to achieve both the ISO 9001 and the ISO 17025, which means that our testing capability is recognized worldwide and our management skills are also recognized. We also have been identified to have the highest concentration of professionals around the pharmaceutical and phytomedicinal value chain. Currently, I have about 75 masters and PhDs in my campus, all aggregated along that value chain. And based on that, we've done a lot of work. My 4 beers were the first to take a phytomedicine from 4 plants, all the way from discovery to phase 2 clinical trials and put forward for sickle cell anemia. That product, we have evidence, is in use in 40 countries across the world, and it was registered by the FDA. More recently, we followed the steps. Don't be shy about clapping, it's from Nigeria. If you want to clap. We followed in the steps of our 4 beers, and we carried on. You can't talk about the past 3 years without talking about COVID. And during COVID, there were lots of fests for Nigeria across the world that are associated with NIPRD. Shortly after COVID hit the Western world and we saw empty shelves across the world, 6 weeks after the declaration in December, NIPRD Concept produced a hand sanitizer and presented to the Ministry of Health. That hand sanitizer was shared, the formula was validated by WHO and shared amongst local manufacturers, and the Minister of Health called a world press conference and presented that hand sanitizer. If you look at your seats, either on top of the seats or under the seats, those are the samples of the hand sanitizers. I can bet you will not get any better quality in the market. Now, the special thing about the hand sanitizers that we did was that we made sure that we got our raw materials 100% sourced from Nigeria. The eucalyptus that was used for the fragrancing was gotten from Kaduna State. The alcohol that was used, the 70% alcohol was derived from plants, from cassava in Kogi State and north central part of Nigeria. And then one thing that people know us for, and this has resonated everywhere I've traveled, is our categorical analysis of the COVID organics preparation from Madagascar. And I've just put up screenshots there. That is the viral declaration in English, and that's the one in French. And this guided decision making, not just in Nigeria, but across the world, and it was recognized that Nigeria was first to undertake a categorical analysis on that product. Right, funding. When I took this job, I did an interview, and one of the questions asked was NIPRD's poor funding and how it will be ameliorated. I thought funding was the biggest problem until I realized a few years into the job, there is not actually funding, it's prioritization. We do not understand the value of research. When the Presidential Task Force was put together for COVID, they did a good job, but they could have done a better job if from day one a research pillar was put in the BTF. It took us many letters and it took a lot of engagement, including a query, before those pillars were put in place. But I think before that was done, we were caught up in a situation where we depended on copy and pasting rather than ensuring that contextual interventions were developed. And even when it comes to funding, the bar charts that you see there is the amount that we put forward every year for funding from government. Because as a research institute, there are many areas you can get funding for, but for national projects, ideally government should provide the seed funding, and then you can get from philanthropists and development partners.